Welcome to another episode of In the Trenches right here on the SFBN. Be sure to join us after the video intro as we will be breaking down all of the high school football action across the state of Pennsylvania, including your favorite schools. Good evening, high school football fans, and welcome back to another episode of In the Trenches right here on the Sports Fan Base Network, coming to you on Facebook Live and the YouTube network. I am joined, as always, by my analysts, Corey Sharp, Mike Palmer. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm Richie Blyweiss, and I'm going to be your host this evening as we go through the biggest and the best highlights from Pennsylvania high school football. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you very much to our viewers from last week's episode. We continue to get great support and comments from you out there in the YouTube world, Facebook Nation. So thank you so much for all of your support, your encouragement, and your kind words. Please continue to like, share, and love our show and the SFBN page, and we'll keep bringing you some great news, great highlights, and great high school football action. So thank you so much to you out there. But now it's time to get back into what we love, gentlemen. It's time to get back into high school football across the state of Pennsylvania. And where better to start but District 1. So we'll talk District 1 right now. North Penn beats Penn Ridge this week, 45-35. And guys, in this key Suburban 1 Continental Conference game, from the very start, it appeared as if it would come down to who has the ball last is going to take this game.
Yeah, well, points didn't come at a premium, I would say, and that's for all the games, most of the games we're going to talk about today. We've seen some pretty high-scoring games this past weekend, but as you said, Richie, North Penn came on top 45-35. It was 28-14 at half, North Penn. Both teams combined for 742 yards on offense. So that's wow. So no trouble moving the ball up and down the field. North Penn had 415. KJ Cartwright had 10 carries for 162 yards and a touchdown. Wow. And North Penn, they're slowly but surely kind of catching fire. They started off 0-2, right. And so they won 3 straight. They're 3-2. Right. And well,
when you talk about the scores, you talk about the way in which the ball got moved and how much offense. You have 37 first downs combined for these two teams here. Yeah, well, the clock was running.
It was running.
Yeah,
but not fast enough for Penn Ridge.
But you get into the fourth quarter and you realize North Penn 2 fourth quarter touchdowns and a field goal.
Yeah, that pretty much wrapped up the game. And so it's funny. North Penn started at 0-2. It's not really the games in August and early September that matter. It's the games in October and November that's really going to come down to what these guys do in states. And so they're facing Central Bucks South next week. They're both atop of the SOL conference at 2-0 in conference. So that's going to be a huge battle.
Well, I want to give. Oh, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
He mentioned that the games don't matter in the beginning of the season. It's because the conference games start to come up later in the season. You start to play against matchups you're used to. North Penn and Penn Ridge been going at it for a long time in the Suburban 1 District 1 conference. But the thing is, both have been so dominant that they're not used to matching up with each other. So we see a matchup in the fourth quarter really determined the game, and North Penn pulled it out. But, I mean, Penn Ridge looks just as good as North Penn this year. North Penn, the 2 games they had, the 0-2 starts were against 2 very good teams.
Which kind of helped them in a way. It kind of didn't leave them any margin for error the rest of the year.
You want to put some kind of a pressure on you. When you start 0-2, you know that every game really is
exactly.
the game.
Yeah, you see the good teams no matter what conference that they're in, independent, whether they're District 1, 2, whatever. They play the tough competition in the beginning of the season to really test and get not only their schedule tougher, but their schedule tougher for people who are analyzing them, and then when it comes to states, to pick a 4 or 5 matchup, the difference.
Well, and I saw a great quote. Both coaches from Penn Ridge and North Penn Both coaches had some great quotes and some interviews after the game. But North Penn Knights coach Dick Beck says this about his quarterback. He says, I'm going to read this here. It says, Steve, referring to Steve DePaul, made some nice throws, and we had a couple of big plays that helped us. We weren't good defensively, and Penn Ridge ran the ball well against us. So here's a coach really, really seeing what his team can do, admitting freely that they have plenty to work on. And he says, we have to get better at tackling because we're not good right now.
Well, that's why North Penn is really an established program, because they're never satisfied with just a victory against any team, whether it's Penn Ridge or any other team in their district, such as Ben Salem. But the thing being is North Penn knows that it's a week-to-week league, and at this point of the season, we're about to be in October already. It's starting to get to playoff time. It's about time that the coach finally
calls them out.
Yeah,
a little
exactly,
bit.
a little bit, because the 0-2 start. Then again, it was good teams, but he's not shying away at these kids right now.
Well, when you talk about calling out, I'm going to give a quote actually from the Penn Ridge coach Jeff Hollenbach, who comes out and he says he's proud of his guys. You know, we talk about calling out and all, but he also says, I'm proud. This was one of the best efforts the Penn Ridge team has put forth in a long time, referring to his team there. He says, obviously, we wanted to win the game, but North Penn is a very good football team, and they played well, and you can see how they really do complement each other, not only on the field, but in the press as well.
He's absolutely right, Richie, because there's nothing to be ashamed about if you're Penn Ridge. And North Penn has really been an established program within that whole District 1 within the last decade or so. And Penn Ridge, as a North Penn fan, if you're watching that game or you see it on the schedule, you're usually used to beating Penn Ridge. Penn Ridge has a great environment, great football program, but North Penn is used to beating down on Penn Ridge. And Penn Ridge coach is right. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's still a lot of games left on the schedule.
Yeah, and he knows he has some things to work on too. I think you're just seeing kind of the different philosophies from each coach.
For sure, and you mentioned it earlier. North Penn, big home conference game coming up against Central Bucks South this Thursday at 7. Also this Thursday at 7, though, Penn Ridge non-conference game home, but against Council Rock South. So definitely gives us one to look forward to.
That should be a very interesting matchup as well.
Yeah. Now, I do want to go on. I want to stay District 1, but I want to take a look at Hatboro Horsham Hatters, not far from us here. Take on, again, not far from us, the Upper Moreland Bears.
Yeah, we're not going to tell people where we are again, but but this was a crazy game. Upper Moreland pulled it out 41-40. Like we said, I mean, all these games are so high scoring. I don't know what it is. Usually when we get further in the year, you see more defense. But
it's not even the 41-40 victory. It's how that
how it happened.
40 came up. How do we get because you think, they got a touchdown, they got the extra point. How does it actually happen?
Games like that usually do come down to extra points or blocked extra points. Plays like that can really make a difference in these type games.
Well, think about this, Coach, a bit. Corey, tell me
how it happened.
Strength, the power of this coach and his team. Go ahead.
Well, in the third quarter, there were 6 possessions each way that resulted in touchdowns. So, it went tit for tat, basically. And they were going 832 yards of combined offense. You know, the other game was 742. We have Chris Edwards for Upper Moreland. Hatboro threw for 4 touchdowns. Calvin Brodus caught the touchdown pass with 15 seconds left, and they went for the win. So that made it 41-40. And
on a 2-point conversion.
On a 2-point conversion. They were unsuccessful, but you can't say Hatboro Horsham wasn't aggressive in what they were doing.
For sure. Upper Moreland moves now to 5-0 on the season. Hatboro Horsham goes to 2-2. They're playing some 500 ball right now. But Calvin Brodus for Hatboro Horsham. 3 touchdowns, 2 off the deflection. Ends the game with 6 receptions, 116 yards.
The tip ball drill. That's unbelievable. That's very underrated.
Yeah.
That's
they still can't manage to get the win without that kid having a very excellent game, getting 2 deflected balls. Sometimes the luck just doesn't go in your favor every game, and Upper Moreland look pretty good right now, and I'm sure they're hoping for their conference rivalry game coming up soon. Lower Moreland, that's going to be creeping up in their schedule soon. But I mean, to survive difficult plays like that in a close game and a shootout, that's got to be a huge victory. You've definitely taken Monday off, practicing light Tuesday, and the rest of the week's going to be grind week, because you got to enjoy victories like that in a shootout. And it's a heartbreaking loss for Hatboro Horsham, though, because all them kids went out there and put their hearts out there. And
to lose on the final play like that isn't easy.
And you're talking about a balanced offense here. You're talking 3 receiving touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. You really are talking about a balanced and a well-trained offensive program.
Back and forth. offensive battles. Defense is just on and off the field, rotating. I'm sure a lot of guys didn't get to see a lot of time on the defense, but that's how it usually is nowadays with this spread offensive, go fast type of deal. Get the first down, line up, no huddle, and that's what you see. You see a lot of points on the board. You see a lot of yards, and I like to see more defense, but that's what happens.
That's what we're getting.
Game.
Right, well, today's game, right, at all levels.
And I feel like that's what we talk about. We just keep talking about these games that just continue to show offensive production constantly. We're not seeing as much in terms of sacks. I know we have a couple of games we're going to go through tonight where sacks really do play a key part, but I'm not seeing it as much in high school
football.
They
just get rid of the ball really quick. The new run pass RPO options, you run a read option. If not, you throw a quick bubble screen or a slant. That's what the coaches run nowadays. It works in the red zone. It works deep in your own territory. It really, you get the ball out of your hands quickly, and you move down the field, you move the chains, and you settle for. It's not wrong settling for punts nowadays too.
No, but when you settle for punts, are you really hurting yourself?
Exactly. You don't take the long sacks on third down. Right. And a lot of teams that are trying to push for that playoff spot have to avoid the third and longs. That is devastating to high school football teams.
Well, and talking about high school football teams, we've got 2 conference matchups coming up for both of those teams. Upper Moreland has a road game against Cheltenham Thursday at 7, and Hatboro Horsham has a home conference game against Quakertown also Thursday at 7.
Well, anything can happen at Cheltenham, so be prepared. Get there early, get a seat, because
don't talk about my alma mater though. I love you, Panthers. I absolutely do. Absolutely do. Panther pride. Now, we do have a game. We're going to get, we are going to get to some clips. I'm excited. I'm excited. We got some clips going. Another District 1 matchup here. Upper Perk and Phoenixville.
Yeah, well, we see the final score as we're about to see some clips.
Game of the week.
Game of the week.
SFBN Game of the week.
Game of the week. It was 44-20.
Phoenixville taking the loss.
Phoenixville taking the loss. I believe they are winless.
Dropped their 0-5. And Upper Perk and Valley looks pretty good this year.
Well, and you talk Upper Perk going to 3-2, and that's really the key here. But let's get into some of these clips. Let's start talking some of the stats that we've got.
Yeah. Well, Upper Perk, we have Tyrese Reed, who's a 5'7" sophomore. He's a pretty small guy, with small stature. Rushed for 2 touchdowns. As a team, Upper Perk rushed for 5 touchdowns. So, they're moving the ball just as well as anybody else that we're talking about here tonight.
We were talking earlier with the 2-point conversions and the extra points, how much difference they can make. You see in there, that 2-point conversion really could change the game.
Well, and there it is right there.
And extra points with the safety right here too. I mean, any points you can take, you'll take them, right, Richie?
Absolutely. And when you're talking about a low-scoring game going into the half.
Yeah, 17-9. I mean, that's a ball game. Even for a winless team, you still feel like you have a shot at half.
Well, absolutely. We can absolutely see right here. We've got a toss, goes to the right side, and this is really what's trying to bring your score back here.
Yeah, and once the half starts, they come out and score, and next thing you know, extra points good, and they have a touchdown lead to begin the half.
Absolutely. Well, let's stick here in the third quarter. We do have the field goal there, and at this point we bring Upper Perk 24, and now here comes Phoenixville thinking that they're coming back, getting another field goal here.
Yeah, well, Nick's Synapsius, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He kicked 2 field goals in the game. So we're pretty impressive for a kicker, to kick 2 field. I believe he did miss 2 extra points, but we won't mention that too much, although we already did.
You already mentioned it, you're going to say we're not going to mention it too much?
But the 2 field goals are very impressive, we'll say that.
Absolutely. But, we mentioned it, we alluded to it earlier. Upper Perk stats here, coming out quick. Rushing, 5 touchdowns, 286 yards. Receiving, just 1 touchdown there. But a safety in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And I feel like a safety is that play that, yes, it's only worth 2 points. And this just goes football across the board, whether we're talking high school, college, pro, whatever. A safety is the most draining play to me in all of football because it simply just takes your team out of the game mentally.
Yeah, it's either that or score before half. When you're driving as an offense, you throw a pick 6 or you give up a score before half.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's
a momentum swing.
Yeah, safety's a win for the defense, and usually the defense gets wins like that, especially safety, interception, fumble recovery.
Yeah,
that is that's a huge play, and it can really change the tide, as you said, in the whole game.
Absolutely. We are going to hit a commercial break right now, and we will be right back here on the SFBN. We've got some great information coming your way.
Hi, I'm Tommy Green, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. When I was in high school, it was very important to me to show scouts what I could do. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you're a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY.
Welcome back to In the Trenches right here on the SFBN. I'm Richie Bleiweiss, still joined by Corey Palmer, Mike Sharp.
We're still here.
We're still here. We are so glad to be here
Richie,
after the commercial.
It's Mike Palmer, Corey Sharp.
Well, there it goes. See that? I'm sorry, guys. We got to have a little bit of fun here on the SFBN. I got to keep these guys on their toes. Just a really quick thing here. Phoenixville set for their biggest challenge yet. They visit Pope John Paul II this Wednesday at 7 p.m. And Upper Perk, big challenge for them. They face off against Upper Marion area Thursday at 7 p.m. That's a home game for them as well. And well, John, I'll come to you. No, Mike. I'm going to come to Mike right here. Mike, I'm going to talk Governor Mifflin. They beat visiting Exeter Township. It's 28-14. Berks League race to the finish here.
Yes, well, out of these two teams and within this Berks League conference, whoever wins between Governor Mifflin or Exeter wins the championship out of the past 7 years. So Governor Mifflin improves to 4-1. Exeter goes down 2-2. And Exeter scores early in the game with a 64-yard bomb, but Governor Mifflin answers really well, and Governor Mifflin really looks forward to games against Exeter because that's maybe their top rival. However, they have still teams tough in that District 3 conference like Wyoming, and a lot of teams in that conference really know each other and know what balanced type of plays they run. And we've seen a very close game. Governor Mifflin wins 28-14. However,
well, and is it safe to say though? I'm sorry to cut you off, but is it safe to say that the Mustangs just really didn't play their best game?
Yes, that's another thing. I think Exeter could have played a little bit better. It's just the beginning was really a sloppy game. However, when it comes down to it, the score has to end, the clock has to end. Governor Mifflin comes up on top because they answered the big plays. Yeah. When a team has big playmakers and the team doesn't answer, you can't win with that.
Well, and the big play started early. You go 16 seconds in for the first touchdown, and they're right there. It's a 64-yard touchdown.
That tells you a lot about Governor Mifflin, the way that they were able to weather that storm, because that's not easy to come back from as a player. It just speaks volumes to the coaching staff and the kids that they have.
They respond with a 79-yard touchdown and an 80-yard touchdown. You see these long touchdown runs can really break down a defense. The Seattle Seahawks are struggling with that right now. They just gave up another 80-yard touchdown run over the past weekend. You see great defenses, but if they let a team break loose with a huge touchdown, that's another huge draining thing in football. A very long touchdown run. And it's hard to respond after that. You're not sure if you want to play too aggressive or too conservative. So Governor Mifflin, after those two big plays, really had Exeter not really too confident. Governor Mifflin was in the driver's seat.
They weathered the storm, basically.
And they worked all week trying to contain Exeter's running back, Nick Sangulis. He had 2 fumbles. As a starting running back, you have 2 fumbles. In a lot of other leagues, Premier Leagues, you have 1 fumble, you're out of the game. So Exeter really relies on this kid.
Well, this Berks League is tough, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They've relied on this kid. He fumbles twice for them. I mean, that just goes to show Governor Mifflin shutting down what they're practicing all week and what they're game planning for. And that's pretty huge to see for Governor Mifflin going 4-1.
Well, and yeah, like you just said, Mifflin's now 4-1. Exeter's sitting at 2-2. But Governor Mifflin's running back, Isaac Ruos, 16 carries, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, and one of his touchdowns was that big 80-yard run.
Yes, you don't see two. He has. How many carries was that, Richie? How many?
That was 16 carries over 153 yards.
He's averaging over almost 5.9 yards a rush. You hand the ball off on first down. If you win first down, you have a very good chance of winning the football game. And I'm sure Governor Mifflin controlled the first down, controlled the clock with that running, and then the long touchdown run to have into effect as well.
And like you say, when we run the ball, you're controlling the clock there. But you alluded to him earlier, Nick Sangulis, 2 fumbles, and he ends the night with only 57 yards rushing there. Can Exeter be a productive team with a running back that just isn't giving you that kind of production?
Usually when you have a strong running back, you can either shut down games or start them up. I'm sure Governor Mifflin utilized that to start the games up, then wind up shutting down games. But if Sangulis have these fumble issues, then you're not going to be able to control any type of offense, and then your defense is going to be on the field longer. But I mean, Exeter, it was a slow start. The game could have gone any way, but the big plays were just the difference. And sometimes
being second and long is better than turning the ball over.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's why turnovers are so crucial.
Well, and here's a quote, Mifflin head coach Mike Vecchio. He says, and we talk about the run here, the kids worked their butts off all week in practice to shut him down, referring to running back Nick Sangulis, and they did a beautiful job. So here you've got teams now really preparing for one player, and you can see how the hard work is paying off.
I mean, I'm sure the kids were anxious to go against this kid, to come down, safeties come down in the box, get a nice hit on him. I'm sure the first play of the game they handed to Sangulis, and Governor Mifflin came down and make a big hit. I'm sure that happened.
But Sangulis has to be prepared for that. He has to be prepared for these teams that when you really are playing that well, when you're playing to a higher level than the rest of your league, you have to be prepared to come in, stay strong, and be able to take what the defense is throwing.
Yeah, because running backs usually are the guys you have the say to control the game or not. And
you have to communicate with your offensive line, too. You need to be able to tell them, where that hole is going to be or where we need to push, because if not, your running back's just never going to get that game going.
And then sometimes there's just no holes, and at that point, you get no holes in the running game, turnovers, and giving up big plays on the defensive side of the ball. That's not going to help you in this rivalry matchup where we've seen, like I mentioned earlier, the team who wins goes on to win the championship.
Absolutely. Coming up for them, Governor Mifflin focuses next an away conference game at Daniel Boone in Birdsboro. That's going to be Friday, September 29th, 7 o'clock kickoff. Exeter goes on to a non-conference game, Burke Catholic, out near the Reading, PA area, and that's also September 29th at 7 p.m. Mike, I'll stick with you here. I want to talk Central Columbia. The Blue Jays going against the Danville Ironmen, and it's a one-touchdown differential in this game.
Yeah, well, this is a great game. Right now, District 4 is still Southern Columbia's district, the district they own, because they are the best team in that district still. We highlighted them in the very first episode. But Central Columbia, probably the same type of offense because they're neighbors, and they come out, the Blue Jays, come out and beat the Danville Ironmen. Two very cool names there.
You look good with some helmets right here.
Saying,
right. You hear that out there? We'd love some helmets right here. It'd be nice.
We love any gift. But, Danville's quarterback throws for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. But once again, the playmakers that we're highlighting today make the mistakes in the short week of the season. The quarterback has 2 interceptions against a big time game here. You can't be throwing picks as a starting quarterback, but
Well, he doesn't have just those 2 picks though. He's got a 300+ yard line. He's throwing 50% though, and when you throw 50%, are you really able to rely on him?
And a receiver he throws to, Peyton Persing, wound up 195 yards receiving and a losing effort. I mean, that's just unreal numbers. 195 is a very impressive receiver number, and I wish he didn't throw the interceptions, but Central Columbia looking to really be the real Columbia team in District 4, but they got a lot of work to do, especially not really of an impressive win over Danville here, because Southern Columbia really owns this district.
And it sounds like Peyton Persing and Peyton Riley really have some work to do with a connection issue there, because if Persing's a junior, who's really able to get that going, then Riley's got to be able to hit him and be able to rely on his other receivers there.
Yeah, exactly. If he highlights one receiver, that's probably where the pick interception issue comes. He's eyeing one receiver, the defense starts floating coverage over there. Next thing you know, he's throwing interceptions that weren't even meant to be in the playbook, the game plan. So,
well, and we've talked offense about the Blue Jays a lot, but defense really does play a big factor in this game. They get a fumble recovery. Ian Huntington gets that, and unfortunately gets him a field goal. But
a huge fumble recovery at the end of the game to really seal it, and the field goal really separated the scores at the point in time, because it wasn't that important a field goal. But if you figure in the comeback from
But we talk momentum.
Exactly.
We talk about momentum here. It's what we've been talking about practically this whole show, is the idea of those pieces of momentum that really are what drive you.
And that's the difference between very good teams, great teams, and just average teams. The Danville Ironmen get a defensive win by letting up the offense, getting the fumble, and recovering in their own zone. But they get a defensive win.
Defensive win, I like that.
Hold them to the field goal, and
I like that.
The Danville Ironmen couldn't really dig in and figure out how to get a win against Central Columbia.
That's something else. We talked about plays that drain you in football. There's a lot of them, aren't there? I mean, when you get a fumble recovery and all you get is a field goal out of it, that almost, right, as you said, it's like that's a perfect description, a win for the defense.
Central Columbia goes against Danville or Southern Columbia, and they can't really finish as well as they did against Danville. Maybe got a little lucky because Danville should have took that momentum from that defensive win and scored a lot more points because you held a good team in Central Columbia to a field goal and still lose. It's going to be tough to beat. It's just those tough little innuendos that you see within the game that can really change it. But when you start seeing the better teams, you'll start seeing touchdown wins for the other team.
It's the stuff that doesn't. It's the stuff that doesn't show up in the stat sheet.
It's the stuff that piles up. You see
the stuff we're not talking about here. Is what ends up changing the game.
There's so much teams and there's so much weeks and so much football to cover. But the thing is, you see a high school team play another lower level high school team, and the lower level high school team does the same mistakes as the higher team. If the higher team play against another elite team, it's really climbing the ladder and seeing what you can do within your program. And I mean, Central Columbia gets a huge win here, but I want to see them play against better competition. And then
they may not be able to get away with it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Central Columbia does get their 5th win of the season. Blue Jays going up over the Ironmen there. Coming up for them, Central Columbia has an away conference game at Warrior Run. Now, that's a cool name. What's that cool name? That's a cool name, Warrior Run.
Are they the Ironmen?
Yeah. The Ironmen versus the Blue Jays versus Warrior Run. I don't know about that one. Danville with an away conference game, Mount Carmel. Both of those games Friday at 7. We are going to take a commercial break, but stay tuned because we'll be going to District 12 as soon as we return. Stay tuned to In the Trenches. Welcome back to In the Trenches, right here on the Sports Fan Base Network. I'm not even going to say their names because I'm going to get them wrong again. So we are going to get right back into it, and we're going to save District 12 for a little bit later on in the show. We're going to go to District 2 right now. We'll talk about the Scranton Knights. We'll talk about West Scranton. Corey, Mike, welcome back. I promise. I will say your name. There you go. There you go. But let's talk District 2. Scranton Knights, West Scranton Invaders, 35-20.
Yeah, well, Scranton, like you said, Rich, for 35-20, they came out victorious, and it was. We talked about them on the preview show last year. I think they finished 3-4, but they had 3 of their games were 1 possession. Well, now this year they've really turned it on. They're 5-0 now, and
let's talk about the name of this game. What are we highlighting? Calling this game?
Battle of the Bell.
The Battle for the Bell,
not the Liberty Bell.
Not the Liberty Bell. I don't think they get that.
After this victory, they snuck up into the top 25 according to Max Preps.
Yeah, after the year they had last year, that's really a testament to their team. You know, I talked about Reese Green in the preview show, 170 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. Big game for him. Big game for Green.
Yeah, we talked about yards per carry earlier. Check out this yards per carry. Gerard Brown, 6 carries for 164 yards and a touchdown. And that
touchdown was 76 yards.
Exactly. So he basically was getting 76 yards a pop.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was what, 30, 40 yards a pop? I'm no math major.
Unbelievable.
I'm
only a math teacher.
That's a huge day for that.
Yeah, on 6 carries too. It's funny, Scranton was only up 14-6 at halftime, so it was a ball game.
Well, and you talk about Scranton. Scranton starts off the season at 5-0. Well, now 5-0 on the season, I should say. And they've beaten West Scranton 6 of the 7 last time. So you have to know that West Scranton's coming in really trying to take this one.
And I believe West Scranton is winless as well this year. So Scranton really they did what they were supposed to do.
Well, and they held strong in the first half. West Scranton's defense really tries to hold on.
District 2 is really one of the oddest districts that we have to cover because half of the teams are still running the wing T style that Northeastern Pennsylvanians love, and then the other half, like Berwick and Wyoming Valley West, are transferring to the spread no huddle type. So you got that confusion in where different teams each week you have to study a traditional style offense versus the today's type of deal with the spread offense, RPO type of deal, and it kind of gets confusing each week to week, and you see rushing yards like that because teams prepare for other things. They're not used to that type of offense.
Well, and you talk about what you want to prepare for and who we want to prepare for, and we're seeing that more and more that schools are actually preparing for particular players. They're not preparing for packages. They are preparing for players and what they've seen in previous tapes. I want to highlight 3 key defensive players that are coming from West Scranton, who, again, tough for them, but Camden Rawlings, Gino Salmon, and Jake Hoffman. 3 great defensive players. Rawlings actually picks up a forced fumble and runs it in for a touchdown on that one.
Yeah, well, good for them, and they put up a fight in the first half.
But in a losing effort.
They put up a fight in the first half against a really good Scranton team. So.
Yeah.
It's good to mention those defensive highlights, though. We don't really see that often. I mean,
absolutely.
When your defense comes to make plays and you still come up short, it's a good sign, though, because in that district, too, it's a very close battle every week in those teams. And you get defensive plays like that, and defensive stars, defensive impact players, then they could really carry you on and really pick up the pace for next week. I mean, tough loss, but...
Well, and West Scranton is now 5-0 again. We're talking Scranton's 5-0. We're talking West Scranton now 0-5. 0-5 for West Scranton. And they have a tough road game coming up. They travel to North Pocono this week. They've got a Friday, September 29th, 7 p.m. game. Scranton has a game against Williamsport, also on Friday. But, we're talking about big games coming up, and West Scranton at 0-5, I just don't see a bounce back from them coming.
No. Unfortunately, I think it's too late for that. But Scranton right now, they're like we said, they're 5-0, and their next game is against against Williamsport on Friday.
Let me ask you guys a question. We talk about this in pro football a lot, and I guess to a degree we talk about it in college. But do you see in high school football a shift where even a team like West Scranton that's 0-5? Do you see a shift where they play these last couple essentially meaningless games? I'm sure that they're meaningful for the players, especially the seniors. But do you see these games really carrying over in terms of momentum, in terms of skill building? Do you see it carrying into the 2018 season?
Richie, 100%. You still have a lot of good... District 2 is not a huge district, so every team they're playing against, they're used to. They hate them. They're neighbors. They're rivals. Yeah. So every game at this point in time, if you're 0-5, means the world to not only the kids, the parents, the program. Because wins against, they're trying to ruin everybody else this time.
Exactly.
That is what their goal is now. And that doesn't give you any more motivation to just go out there and play your heart out, to just be like, oh, if we win, these teams aren't making the playoffs, say no more. We're going to go out there and pin your ears back, and you have nothing to lose. The ball is in your court. When you can play football like that, honestly, it's not. Yeah. It's obviously you don't want it to get like that, but it's fun because you
have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
right. You're playing with house money.
Exactly, playing with house money.
But are those the kinds of games that you want to be? Of course, you want to be 5-0. But when you go in with nothing to lose, I almost feel like you realize you actually have more to lose because you suddenly start playing reckless football, and I feel like that's when I start seeing injuries.
Well, when you're a team that's just struggling to find wins, injuries at that point, it's just like
it's just part of the game.
Yeah, their best players will still play no matter what. So I just believe at this point in time, when you're just struggling to find wins, you really have to bear down and just take each day by day and really start game planning and scouting a little bit better.
All right. Well, in the sake of time, I do want to move on here to District 7, guys. District 7. Number 1, Pine Richland Rams. They take on number 3, Bethel Park. With these two top-ranked teams, this is going to be a shootout here. I think we expected a little bit more of a close score, but the Rams edge the Blackhawks here, 54-20. Pine Richland taking the win.
We highlighted Pine Richland last week, being in one of the toughest conferences here in District 7. They get the huge win here against Bethel Park, 54-20. That 20 shouldn't even be on the scoreboard. It's just that was just pity points in the late quarter, I'm sure, because in the second quarter, Pine Richland put up 40 points. It was 7-0 to end the first quarter, and they put up 40 unanswered.
Well, and I want to point out something else, too, that got reported on. I'm sure you wanted to talk about this as well. But Pine Richland quarterback, Phil Jerkovich, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yes. He's being scouted at the game by none other than Notre Dame head football coach Brian Kelly.
Yeah, well, he was there at the game, Coach Kelly. I'm sure he's looking for a new quarterback because the Notre Dame quarterback right now, I'm not a big fan at all, just for you fighting Irish fans out there. Lamar Jackson's not doing that great either. However, Brian Kelly was there. He really needs to find a new quarterback. Yeah. Phil Jerkovich almost goes perfect, 19 for 23, 355 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Well, he throws for 2 touchdowns, and then he rushes for 3 more.
Yeah, so he has 5 total touchdowns there, and it just, that's what you like to see out of a D1 recruit in a tough division, and number 17 in the state.
Yeah.
That is huge, and Brian Kelly definitely could have he could start next year for Notre Dame at this point with those numbers.
You know, and I agree with you. He could. You know, I would hope for his sake that we would see this. But I want to read you a quote by Jerkovic, who again, he has Brian Kelly scouting him. He wants to sound professional. He wants to sound mature because that's what the Notre Dame program is looking for.
He talked like a true quarterback.
So I want to read this here, if you guys don't mind. Jerkovic's quote. Excuse me. He says, "I didn't want to do anything crazy. Just take what the defense was giving me." And he talks about, because he's targeting Bethel's zone defense here, "Our coaches did a great job of preparing us. We just exposed their weaknesses. They're a very good team. It's just that we prepared extremely well for them, and our coaches put us in the right situations." You don't get more professional than that. Well done, young man. Well done.
That's why the quarterback talks at the end of the post games.
That's why Brian Kelly is looking, because he sees he's got a tough player here with great stats, and he sees somebody that is professional and can live up to the Notre Dame reputation.
Yeah, this kid goes 19 for 23. That looks awesome on paper, but the Bethel Park, they didn't complete a pass in the first half till 12 seconds left. And that just goes to show Pine Richland's defense. You said they're well prepared, and that's what we were talking about earlier, the teams that are either good, average, or elite. And Pine Richland really looks like an elite team, shutting down the defense as well as their quarterback, leading them to literally the promised land.
That's something like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady would say after a game.
Well, and you know, Pine Richland, you know, you talk about the Rams and just being so dominant, they pull starters at halftime. They start taking knees in the fourth quarter. And it really was just amazing. But do we want to talk about Bethel Park at all here?
No, we're going to stay with Pine Richland right now because they have a huge matchup next week against Pittsburgh Central Catholic, probably the 2 best teams in this District 7. So I'm surprised Coach Kelly didn't want to schedule his free time off to go to this game.
You never know, he might be back.
Yeah. I mean, if he goes 2 weeks in a row, this kid could be the real deal, and he proved it.
Yeah. If Coach Kelly's coming back, I mean, we can have Mike give out our address here at the studio. We can go out to dinner.
No, I think we're just going to go all to Pine Richland, Bethel Park.
That's fine. Coach Kelly, we'll see you there next week.
And Jerkovich will be taking us out.
Absolutely, that's right. Get some quotes for the show.
Huge game because Central Catholic's off a huge win against Seneca Valley, 28-20, and that Seneca Valley was no joke either. We highlighted them last week. And District 7 is looking like a 3-way battle here for Pine Richland, Pittsburgh Central Catholic, and then another team could creep up if they play them late and try to get a victory against one of those hot teams. So.
Well, they lead by a touchdown for the first quarter, go on 40 unanswered points, and you're just no team is going to survive with that. Just not going to survive. But Bethel Park coach Jeff Matheny says after the game, we needed to keep the ball away from them. We did not do that. They had a good plan, and we didn't have an answer for them. That's really the perfect way to say we had nothing.
Yeah, it lines up pretty much what Phil Jerkovich said.
In a much better quote. Sorry, Coach. But Pine Richland, now 5-0 on the season. Bethel Park has an away conference game at Hempfield area, out in the Greensburg area this Friday at 7. Also Friday at 7, Mike, you said it before. Pine Richland, home conference game, Central Catholic. Certainly have what to look forward to there.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh. So.
Yeah. District 12. Imhotep Panthers beat the Simon Gratz Bulldogs 40-21 here. Marcus Foster Super Site, a super place to watch quite an incredible game.
Yeah, well, Richie, nowadays, Imhotep versus Gratz is really the public league matchup in Philadelphia you want to see. Back in the day, it used to be Washington versus Frankfurt or Northeast versus Frankfurt or either one, Northeast versus Frankfurt.
Anybody versus Frankfurt.
Yeah. That used to be the huge games back in the day with Washington when they used to have the reins over the public league, but it's a total different tide now with Imhotep. They have complete control over the Philadelphia Public League. They look outstanding against Simon
dominant. Gratz. They're dominant.
Yeah, and Simon Gratz is the second-ranked public team in the league, the only one close to Imhotep, and Imhotep just shows their athletic ability and insane caliber skills with 4 interceptions. I mean, that secondary has to be balling out when you get 4 interceptions against the second-ranked team in your conference, and they get a huge win, 40-21. I mean, Imhotep looks really, really impressive. I mean, they've been playing against very good competition the whole year. No team has been a slack or any buy-in game. this was another tough game. I mean, the crowds were packed down there at the super site.
Yeah.
You could barely even get in.
They said people were lining the fences just to watch
That's
this
Philly
game.
right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's Philly ball right there.
High school football.
I'm sure it was a great. The atmosphere was great, but Emotep just proved that once again that they are the best premier team in this Philadelphia Public League.
There's no signs of slowing down either with them.
Well, and you got a guy like Christian Mark returns the opening kick 90 yards. 90-yard kick return, but a couple inches shy of the goal line.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, I'm sure Grass
they get the score, but
I'm sure Simon Grass didn't want to start out with giving up a huge kickoff return. That's just, I mean, they kept Emotep's offense on the field, but then they had to bring Emotep's Legion of Boom secondary out. I mean, no fly zone for them. 4 interceptions and Emotep. I mean, what else more can you say? They just beat. They just beat the number 2 contender. Emotep might.
Yeah. They
might not lose a game for the rest of the year, and they proved once again they're the tier.
We need to come up with more dates for their secondary if they keep doing this.
Yeah. Well, and you look at Gratz, Amir Gillis, their senior quarterback. You know that he wanted more coming into this game against Emotep, but he goes measly 8 for 27, 149 yards, 2 TDs. Really not the line that you want to be pulling against a strong team like the Panthers. You just don't want to see that.
I'm sure it wasn't the coach's fault. I'm sure they game planned very hard for Emotep because that is one of the toughest matchups you can have as a coach, and it's just tough when you're playing against a great team like that who've been an established program. Kids been coming in, they've been wanting to go to Emotep, and that just goes to show Emotep has a target on their back. They are the favorites right now to win the state championship in the Philadelphia Public League in District 12.
And we have to talk about the flags. Flags play a huge role in this game. Emotep 19 flags, Gratz 8 flags. Still 8 flags, I'd be concerned at that point. 19 flags, I am freaking out trying to figure out how my team still won this game.
No, the thing is, Richie, I'm sure 19 flags, a lot of them were due to, could be a lot of cocky situations or situations that didn't have to flags didn't have to be thrown, whether it be late hits on the sidelines or false start penalties.
Immature plays.
Immature, exactly. And if Emotep really wants to be what we say they are, they cannot have 19 penalties and win against a better team when they get to the state playoffs.
Oh, you're exactly right.
Because Simon Gratz, this is their first big-time matchup. Gratz has been a ever excelling program. However, they're not used to the big games like this. You go against a team like a North Penn or teams that are used to big games like this, and you have 19 penalties.
There's no way.
There's
no way. Right.
Well, and Emotep's now 4-1. They get up somewhat of a break, I guess you can say, this week. They've got an away non-conference game against the Haverford School. That's this Saturday at 2. Gratz, home conference game, no break for them, versus Northeast. That's going to be Friday the 29th at 6:30 p.m. Well, gentlemen, we have really broken down so many games across so many districts here. But I do want to mention a couple of upcoming games for you guys here. District 1, we've got CB South at North Penn on the 28th. And also in District 1, Pennsbury Ben Salem. District 7, Pittsburgh Central Catholic at Pine Richland. And we talked about Pine Richland. Man, are they a beast.
Yeah, that's it. Put that one down on your schedule. That's going to be a good game.
Absolutely. District 11, Parkland at Whitehall on the 29th as well.
We covered that matchup last week, Richie. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Easton, Bethlehem Catholic on the 30th. And District 12, Northeast and Simon Gratz, just talked about that one. And also West Catholic at Newman Goretti on the 30th.
Yeah, I mean, we could stay in District 12 here and go over some game scores if you want, just to get the whole list going. I mean, earlier in the week, District 12 score on Thursday. We have some Thursday night games, trying to squeeze all these games in. Lincoln looked very good and getting a huge win against Samuel Fells, 36-30. And then Northeast blanking Philadelphia Central 46-0.
That was after a loss to Newman Goretti. I think it was an 8-7 loss.
Yeah, when they didn't even have to play.
Right,
It was a call up, meet up the field, and play.
That's right. It was a good bounce back game for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then as you look at more games on the Friday night games, Olney and Mastbaum goes in a battle, and Mastbaum pulls it out 28-26. I mean, we already covered the Emotep versus Gratz game, and then O'Hara knocks off their crosstown rival Bonner 21-0, shuts them out.
Well, and I have to give a quick shout out. I know it's on our list here. I have to give a quick shout out. Springside Chestnut Hill Academy, my school. going at George Washington, picking up a big win.
That's my school.
48-13. That's
cool.
your school?
That's not cool.
George Washington?
Wow.
I'm so sorry. But my SCH Academy beats Corey Sharp's George Washington. Now I'm going to let this sink in for a minute here. 48-13. Coach Knox, you crushed it. Way to go. Way to go, SCH Blue Devils. Sorry, buddy. Had to do it.
I understand.
I'm sorry. One of these days, you'll get me back for that one. One of these days. But keep going, District 12. Cardinal O'Hara, Bonner, Conwell Egan, Schuylkill Valley.
I mean,
guys, don't just pull in wherever you want to here.
Yeah, Conwell Egan plays a team that's not even in their district and goes down and gets a huge win, 54-24, 55-24. But then we got to go to the #1 team in Pennsylvania right now, St. Joe's Prep. Gets a Archbishop Carroll was starting hot. They were 3-0 coming into this game, and St. Joe's Prep shuts them up with a 38-6.
That's dominating.
Yeah, 38-6 win. And then West Catholic versus Lansdale Catholic, a little closer game than we expected. Yeah. West Catholic wins 40-28 after a battle down in Wissahickon over there.
Well, let's go to the Saturday games here. Bishop McDevitt, Newman Goretti.
Newman, once again, a very surprising team this year. There was talks before the season started. Watch out for Newman. There's a lot of transfers coming in. Yeah. They get a very huge win, 42-7 against Bishop McDevitt. We scroll down a little bit. Archbishop Ryan, my school, a very tough matchup against LaSalle. They lose 45-7 after a very good win against Judge. I mean, that's just too much against LaSalle. They take the loss.
Well, Judge pulls up with a big win, though, against Slasium School.
Exactly. Slasium School in Delaware. Actually, when I visited homecoming this weekend at Kings, my wide receiver went to Slasium, and we were talking, hey, Judge plays Slasium this weekend. He's like, what? No way. Okay. My friend Tyler Maroney winds up having 6 catches, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns in a losing effort. And we see that no matter how much receiving yards you can have or touchdowns. We covered the game earlier where Paul and Peyton and the 2 Peyton on the team. It's just a shame.
Yeah, I think the Philly schools especially love to play teams that are outside the
exactly.
You get up for them. Well, you want to show them kind of what you're about.
Yeah, and Slasium's in a very good. They play against the Military Academy in Delaware. It's a very good established conference down in Delaware. I wish we could cover it. Maybe we'll have to expand to the tri-state area sooner or later. But I mean, as you said,
viewership keeps growing. We'll keep expanding.
Exactly.
That's it.
The Philly teams love the other matchup.
Wood went down to Florida, right?
Yeah, in the beginning of the year. And then speaking of Wood, they beat a.
We should go to Florida to cover that game. So to our directors at SFBN, we would like to go to SFBN Florida version. That sounds like a good idea.
Go to Disney World.
Yeah, we could travel.
I can work on a tan. I'll still wear a suit.
Yeah, college game day travels all over the place.
Absolutely.
High school game day.
Yeah.
Archbishop Wood.
High school game day. I love it. I love it.
Right.
All right. But again, I know I mentioned these before. If we want to hit on anything, District 1, CB South, North Penn, and Pennsbury-Ben Salem. Definitely some big games.
I mean, that Pennsbury-Ben Salem matchup looks very intriguing now. I mean, maybe when I was in high school, you say Pennsbury-Ben Salem, you might not even show up to that game because you know Pennsbury's going to win. But nowadays, you have no idea. That could be a very interesting game. I mean, 2 District 1 teams looking to finally replace somebody at that 3 or 4 spot in the.
I know we talked about Ben Salem last week. The start they got off to. So
well, District 7, Pittsburgh Central Catholic, Pine Richland. I think if we talk about Pine Richland anymore, we're gonna have to rename it.
The Pine Richland
in the Pine Richland trenches. I think we're gonna have to rename the show there. District 11, Parkland at Whitehall on the 29th, and Easton at Bethlehem Catholic on the 30th. There. District 12, we already mentioned Northeast Simon Gratz, West Catholic Newman Goretti on the 30th. Yeah. Wow. We've had a packed week, guys, and it looks like by these upcoming games, we certainly have our work cut out of us for this next week ahead.
Yes, sir.
I do want to take a couple of moments just to mention some upcoming programming notes on the SFBN. Varsity Voice, Wednesdays, and one of my favorites, In the Goal, on Thursdays. All of these shows coming to you live on the SFBN's Facebook page. And also, you'll be able to watch them, check them out on the SFBN.com. Well, gentlemen, I thank you both so much again. I thank you to those of you at home viewing, watching, liking, loving, sharing. Please continue to share and love and like In the Trenches and the SFBN network through all of social media. Make sure to add us so you can follow us and what we have to say. on these amazing topics. We'll be back with you next Monday night right here live on the SFBN Facebook Live page. We'll talk analysis. We'll talk predictions. We will definitely talk recaps. As you can see, there's a lot of great stuff coming your way. In the meantime, be sure to check out the SFBN.com. You'll get all of the information, news, and notes that you need. For Corey Sharp, for Mike Palmer, my name is Richie Blyweiss. Thank you so much for watching In the Trenches. Be sure to check out all the great action on the SFBN network. Stay classy and be good to each other.